Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Engine Builder Show. Our topic for today is what Gabe has learned after recording 100 episodes of the Engine Builder Show. Today is very special because, as I just mentioned, this is our 100th episode on this show. We appreciate each and everybody deeply. And for those who tune in every morning, since we started 5 months ago, we appreciate all of you. And for the new viewers as well, welcome. Thank you again from the bottom of our hearts. And as usual, enjoy the show. Good morning, everybody.
There was always a ton to learn. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and being with us here today. Just like Jethro said a minute ago, this is our 100th episode, which is a lot of fun. It's been quite the journey over the last 5 months or so. And today's episode is going to be a little bit longer than normal because I want to share the things that I've learned in recording this podcast and just share what I've learned so you can get value from that as well. And also just kind of share where my head's at and my thoughts of what's worked here, what I've learned, and just what the journey's been like. I believe that I read a stat, a while ago, and I've heard similar things from, podcast professionals over the years and podcast producers and all sorts of different folks. But most people start a podcast and they never get past 10 episodes. And I know what that's like because I'm sure you could dig around and find some of them. I have a couple out in the graveyard there that I only did a handful of episodes on because sometimes when I did that, it was because the concept just didn't work. Other times I just really didn't show up consistently. And so I forgot about it. My first show that I did, I want to say I did like 12 or 15 episodes. And then I wasn't sure what else to talk about because I really wasn't in the right headspace. And so for this being my second show that has reached over 100 episodes, my other show that's well over 100 episodes now is called Today's Business Leaders. It's a little bit different show where I interview other entrepreneurs and learn, have them share their story and their lessons. I love that show. It's long form. But this being the second show that I've taken over 100 episodes, it's been pretty interesting because there's been some parallels to my long form show. And there's been some other things that I've learned as well. And so I'm just going to share those with you today. And I appreciate you taking time to tune in. If you've observed anything, having, listened or watched to the show over the last few months, I'd love to see what your thoughts are. And if you have any questions about starting a podcast, let me know, because we actually have a course that we offer to folks who are interested in podcasting. And there's actually an easy way to get it for free. I have a promotion going on right now. And so if you'd like to get the course for free, just comment down below, or you can message me on any of the social platforms, or you can fill out the contact form at businessmarketingengine.com and just ask me how you can get a free copy of my podcasting course. Because in that course, I show how I made mid six figures with my podcast. But with all that said, I actually, like I said, it's a little bit longer format because I actually want to share at least 5 things that I've learned in recording these 100 episodes so that it can be useful to you. And the first thing that came to mind as I was thinking about today, which I was really excited about, having today's episode, is that I've realized, and I realize this more and more in all areas of my life, that creating routine creates freedom. And setting up the routine of, having this show every morning, Jethro and I getting on and recording this, him supporting me in this and just doing it every single day. It's really helped me become, in my experience, in my opinion so far, I've been able to become a more effective communicator because I have to show up every day and share something. A lot of the times it's new information. Other times I repeat things I talk about because I think they're important to reinforce and go through. And it's allowed me to just be more intentional about how I communicate, how I show up and what I do. And that's given me freedom in other areas because it's allowed me to be a better presenter when I speak on stage at events that I get to be a part of. It's allowed me to be a more effective interviewer when I'm on my other show. And anytime that we can create consistent routines in our lives, even if it's just something that we do for 10 or 15 minutes a day, like this show is normally, it allows us to just build those positive habits and those routines. And I know for me growing up, there was actually a lot of negative connotations around the word, discipline and routine. And there was some things said to me when I was young that I now know aren't true, but I just had a lot of negativity and a lot of baggage around what it meant to have routine and structure. And as I grew in my entrepreneurial journey, I realized that I really ran away from structure and routine because I thought that those things would trap me. When in fact, I realized that the more structure and routine I put into my life, the more freedom I have of time, the more revenue potential I have, and the more income I've been able to make, and the more I feel satisfied and content with the work that I do because I can see that I'm incrementally making progress. And so I would encourage you to really look at, where are you lacking routine and structure, and where could you put in simple structure with accountability that's going to help you move forward. One of the reasons this show is successful, and one of the people I'm super grateful is Jethro, because he shows up every day with me and he holds me accountable to show up and actually do the show. If he wasn't here, we would never have reached 100 episodes as fast as we did. And, you and all the other listeners wouldn't benefit so much. So as you're looking at creating structure and routine for yourself, realize that probably a big part of it being successful is going to be the proper amount of, accountability and support from either loved ones or family members or team members or other peers or colleagues that you work with. And so that's the first thing that I learned. And it's been really enjoyable. The second thing that I've learned, is that focusing on one thing leads to much bigger breakthroughs. I know starting out as an entrepreneur, and I know I still face this at times where I see a lot of opportunities in front of me. I see a lot of new things I want to do. I just have all these ideas. It's part of who I am to just be visionary and to have ideas and come up with new things I want to work on. But if I allow myself to fracture my attention like that, and I allow those ideas to be more than me just writing them down in case I want to use them in the future, then I actually dilute my effort and I don't have a clear straight line and a path that I'm taking. And so it impacts my productivity, my revenue, my focus, my energy. And the amazing thing about doing this show for the past, now 100 episodes is it's actually helped me refine my thought process and help me drill into who I want to serve. And so I'm excited because over the coming months, I'm going to start to share a new focus and a new niche that I'm going to be working on. And I plan to share my journey and explain how that's going and how's that's working. And I would have never understood that niche and that opportunity or how big it was if I hadn't started by building this pattern of just really focusing in on trying to do one thing and doing it really well. That habit and that skill of that level of focus and just sticking to something on a daily basis is so valuable, because when you master it in one area, you can often translate that to, another focus area, and you can accelerate and grow so much faster, beat your competitors and get results faster because you've honed that skill of just really, intense focus. So that's been another thing that I've learned and really enjoyed and benefited from in doing this show. The third thing, which I'm breaking this today, like I said, it's going to be a longer episode, but the third thing that I've learned and has been really valuable in doing the show is learning how to condense what I want to say into 10 minutes or less has forced me to think through what are the key things I need to share about this? How can I give a good example? How can I be clear in teaching this, but not take, the path that I'd often took in the past of doing a long rambling live or having to do a 90-minute or longer, training webinar or things like that. And there are times for long form information and long form content and long form teaching, scenarios. But I believe that when we can be impactful in a short amount of time, we have the opportunity to serve more people, because that could be an easy entry into your world. If you were able to condense your message down into a few minutes, starting at maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I believe the earlier shows were like 15 minutes long. And then I got them down to 10 minutes. And there's times now that I'll do one in like 7 or 8 minutes. And I feel like I covered a lot of ground, shared what I wanted to share, and was effective with the information that I was able to put out there. And so learning to condense down what I want to talk about into a shorter time format has been really good practice for me. It's helped me become a better communicator, and I'm something I'm going to continue to work on. I have a friend, Rachel Maza, who's part of a company that is one of our clients, Copy Chief, and she has these 2-minute videos on copywriting tips that blow me away, because she just condenses all this information into like a 2-minute video. and they're super valuable. Some of them are even like around a minute, and she's able to communicate a ton of value in 2 minutes. So I'm proud of myself because I've been able to get to the like 8 to 10 minute mark. But one of my goals is to be able to be really condensed and impactful in a few minutes. And we only get to those higher levels of achievement. We only hone our skills and reach those goals when we're willing to take incremental steps forward in getting there. So whatever skill you're working on, communication, I think, is an important one. It's one of the reasons why I wrote Atomic Words, which you can get a copy at atomicwords.com. But whatever skill you're working on, if you just are willing to make incremental improvement and kind of chunk it down into levels of achievement, like for me, it was like, I'm going to make sure I can do a 15-minute podcast. And that sounded really scary at first and like overwhelming. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but I was like, I'm going to target doing 15 minutes. Now I've been able to stick under 10 minutes. And one of my next levels, targets will be, can I do something really impactful in 3 minutes or less? So whatever skill you're trying to achieve, I just encourage you to take it in steps and just keep practicing it, put the repetitions in, put the time in, and you're going to be able to incrementally make progress there. The fourth thing is that when you start to get out there, you build your business, you build your personal brand, and you do something new, like maybe you start a podcast, or maybe you start emailing your list on a daily basis, or maybe you start speaking, to more folks at events, like virtually or in person, or you write a book, or whatever the new thing is that you put out there. When you get more attention, there can be times where you will attract the wrong kind of attention, and you'll get people coming to you who really don't have your best interest at heart and are really just trying to latch on to the work that you've put in. It's been a couple times in the last 4 or 5 months where I've had people message me out of the blue who really haven't engaged a ton with me, from a relationship standpoint in the past, but all of a sudden they have a great idea and they want me to promote something on the show. Or all of a sudden they go, oh, Gabe has all these viewers and these people that, he's engaging with, maybe I can latch onto that and get some leads or get some results out of that. And while I understand, and I don't think their heart's intention is in the wrong place, I have shut those things down because I've realized that they're just looking to take a shortcut and not spend the time investing in their own audience and building, relationships and doing the work that's necessary to have a successful platform that will attract, their ideal customer, their ideal clients to them. And so as you grow a business and you become more successful, one of the things to be aware of, whether it's the business is growing or whether you're just growing your brand online, or you're just getting, again, more exposure and more attention, is I would just caution you and just ask you to be aware that there's definitely going to be people that are going to be there that will support you and do it for all the right reasons and help you stay focused on your goal. And then there's also, unfortunately, going to be people that just don't have the experience or the maturity to understand what you've done to get to where you are, and they're going to try to latch on and take advantage of your audience or take advantage of all the hard work you've put in. And so I always want to come from a place of trusting people until they prove to be untrustworthy. And I am also learning to balance that with saying, I'm going to evaluate the communication I get. I'm going to evaluate when people reach out to me so that I can be more conscious and intentional about who I choose to engage with. And I can really think through and decide for myself, do they really have my audience's best interest in mind, which is really important to me? Are they really going to be somebody that's going to help me grow my business? Or are they simply trying to, take a shortcut that doesn't actually make sense and isn't going to be effective for either one of us? And so be aware of those things, because those people do just come up, the more you grow, the more you get out there, the more exposure you have, those types of things can definitely happen. The last thing that I want to share and talk about in this 100th episode and what I've learned is that I originally thought that my long form podcast was a little bit of an anomaly because within a matter of getting to like 75 or 80 episodes on that show, I'd already generated almost $400,000 of business from that show. I got a ton of referrals, got a lot of good business from it. It was a really, really profitable experience. Even though that wasn't my intention, I kind of fell into revenue when I started that show. That's actually the podcasting course that I mentioned earlier. I teach the process that I uncovered and refined that allowed me to make hundreds of thousands of dollars through that show. I kind of had in mind that long form show format, the structure that I had used there was a little bit unique, and that it wouldn't necessarily translate to a short form show where it's just a solo show, as far as me talking and sharing what I'm doing. But in fact, as I kind of ran the numbers and looked at some things before having today's episode, I realized that even in this format, podcasting is still really, really profitable. And I've got about 25 hours in this show, somewhere in there, and I've already earned $1,000 an hour in recording this episode, these episodes, recording this show. And I'm confident that actually that initial $25,000 of revenue from recording these episodes is probably going to turn into somewhere around $100,000 and $150,000 of revenue, which will put my earnings per hour in effort here up into the $3,000 or $4,000 level. And so it was really interesting to reflect on that and realize that, oh, yes, my long form show, which is a deep relationship building kind of process. And that's what I talk about in my podcasting course that, again, you can get for free. If you message me, I'll tell you how you can get it for free. There's a couple of requirements, but you can get that for free if you're interested. But I talk about that in that course and how that format of show is really easy to build relationships, and you can generate revenue if you follow the process I used. But I was also, like I said, surprised to realize that a short form show like this has still been massively profitable and been enjoyable too. Ideally in business and in life, if we can do things that we really enjoy and we can also generate revenue and value from those for ourselves and for the people that we're serving, I think that's a huge win-win. And so it was pretty cool for me, like I said, but preparing to have today's show, just look back and go, oh, I've already made $1,000 an hour doing this show. And I think that $1,000 an hour is probably going to increase to around $2,000 to $3,000 per hour minimum. And a lot of that comes back to just showing up consistently, kind of like we talked about in the beginning of the episode. But those are the things that I've learned so far. And I would love to hear what you've thought of the show, things you've liked, things you don't like. I always like looking at feedback and seeing, is there something I can improve? Is there something we can do differently? But it's been a joy to record these 100 episodes and have you be part of it. And I'm looking forward to recording many more with you. And also, like I said, I'm going to share over the coming weeks and months a big new project that I'm working on and that I'm working on with the team. And so I'll be sharing our progress on that as well. So I appreciate you tuning in today. Thanks so much for being a part of this 100th episode. And I look forward to seeing you on the next show.